Hi friends, welcome back to Arc Tutorials. This is Angular 12 tutorial series. I'm covering CRUD tutorial as well as a lot of other ecosystem related ones, which includes Angular material, directives, routing, modules, services, and much more in this particular series. After these episodes, you would be able to master Angular 12, learn how to use all these different components, modules, services, routing, pipes, and much more, and master them. Let's get started. This is part 4 of the series. Make sure that you see the previous part 3 parts so that you can learn and master it. Before we get started, I'll request you to check out my Angular 10 complete playlist, which is on the channel. That I'm planning around 100 tutorials, and you would really master Angular like a pro. The playlist link is in the description box below. Make sure you check it out. Alright, so as part of the CRUD Angular 12 CRUD series, what are we learning? We learned how to install Angular 12 application, create new project, install Angular material, learn how to use Angular material components, using services, components, routing, CRUD operations. Today, we will go one step further, add validations, learn how to use data table, reactive forms, pipes, and lazy loading modules. Let's get started. Before I start coding, I'll request you, if you like my work and my tutorials, please do consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/arctutorials. Thank you in advance. Alright, so let's get started. So just to quickly recap, we have learned Angular 12 project installation. We have seen Angular 12 create new project. We have seen CRUD operations, which includes create, read, update, and delete, all with HTTP client, which means we have made use of services. We have also created components. We have created a layout. We have used Angular material as our framework to create the UI. And today, what are we going to do? Today we will add validations. Today we will also enhance our application by adding data table. Today we will also learn what is typecasting and how models are created in UI. Also, we will see lazy loading, and last we'll see how to use some features like pipes. Okay, lot of work in front of us. Let's get started. For our friends who are joining us new in this particular series, I'll quickly show you the demo of what we are up to, and then we will proceed with coding today's application and the aspects that we are learning. Alright, so I'm going to open the application. Let's give it a minute and see if it's loaded. It should be. It's generating. Just give it one more minute. In the meanwhile, please do hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel. Alright, so our compilation is done. It's ready. Let's go to application and refresh our page, and we see this is our home page. We'll improve it as we go along. First, list users. So it will display all the list. This is where we will add data table today. Alright, we'll do that in just a minute. Before that, let's go to add users. In the last episode, we added the reactive form. We added some basic validations. However, it's something is incomplete. Let's see what it is. If I don't enter something and step out, it highlights that red color. That means there is an error. But however, it doesn't tell what exactly the error message is, right? Which means that there is a difference in what the user would see. Sometimes the user will not know what is going wrong, and hence we have to be more specific in giving the user clear message saying that what exactly is going wrong. So for that, what we are going to do is add the custom messaging. Let's do that right now. So for that, I'm going to make use of mat error. That's one of the tag that we can use to show the error messaging. Let's get started. So I'm going to go into first users, go to add users, and in the HTML, so this is where our form validation is. So I'll make it big. So these are the fields that we have. So I'm going to work with phone number. Inside the format form field, I'm going to add mat error, and here I'll display the error. I will say say phone number is required. Is required. All right. So this will always show now in our application, but we don't want to show it every time. Now see, it's good, but what happens if we enter? It goes away. That is correct, perfect. So this is acting well, but it's not complete. I'll tell you why. Because let's say we have two error messages. I'm saying phone number is required, and it should be 10 digits, let's say, right? Because that's what is one of our validation. Here if you see, we said max length is 10 in our phone number validation. So we are saying validators required, and we are saying validators dot max length, right? So what we need to do, we need to give custom message now, right? So let's see how to do that. So for that we need to put a condition. We'll say ngIf. Here we will use our form and say that if this form dot control has that error. So what is our name of the form? The name of the form is add user form. So we are going to say add user form dot controls, right? That means in this form find a control by the name phone, because that's what is our name that we have given in our component. If you see here, we are calling it phone, right? So make sure these are the small mistakes that people do. Also notice this is an array bracket, not function bracket. A lot of people again make that mistake. So I'm saying in this form find a control by the name phone and check if it has errors, right? And if it has errors, and dot control, I'm going to copy this again instead of typing. Now I'm going to say has error. Here I'm saying what is the error, right? That is what we are interested in. So what kind of error it is? Here it's a function bracket, so I'm saying if it is required error, then show phone number is required. Else, copy this again and come down to this error block, put it here and say max length. Some people make mistake, they give capital L here. That won't work, it has to be small. Okay, now see what we are saying in this form. Find this control if it has errors, and if it has required error, if it has max length error, right? So that is the one that will be based on, it will display based on that. Now let's test it. So here I will step out, it says phone number is required, perfect. Now max length, right? So I'm going to give a number, it says phone number should be 10 digits. If I step out, maximum length, right? So that's why if it exceeds 10, it will show this message. So this is how we can give custom errors for validations. I hope it's clear. You can do the same with any other field. I will just copy this again, give it to email. All right, now here I'm pasting this, and I'm saying if email has error, and if email has error which is required, then give that. So let's check our component. Email is required and validation is email, right? So first we'll add one more error, and here now we are going to say email address is required, email address is not valid. That's a message we can give. So these are the messages that are really helpful in telling the user what's going wrong. Okay, so now go to our application, step out, it will give email address is required, type some wrong, now it says email is not valid. Try giving a valid one, and now it says it's correct. But if you don't give some valid one, it says email address is not valid. Similarly like this. So this is how we can achieve form validations. We can add custom messages for our custom fields and make sure that your application provides correct messaging to the user so that it's user friendly. Alright, so go ahead, give it a try. Let me know in the comment section how you see or if you run into any issues. All right, now to the next part, which is making our data table, right? This is one of the most asked in the comments, so I'm going to address and do it now. In the list users, we are displaying the list like this, so we are going to change it, make it data table. Okay, so let's get to that job now. All right, so for that we'll go to list users in the HTML. So I'm not going to touch anything now. First, take the basic skeleton from Angular material. So go to components and you can come down to table, take the table, start with the basic one, right? So there are a lot of examples of how you can customize. I'm going to start using this and then we will customize based on our application. So copy as it is, no need of any rocket science for now, just copy as it is, go and paste that code in our HTML for now. All right, it will give you errors, don't worry just yet. Go to TS file and copy only this to export interface and the data. Okay, just copy this. This is the static data that it provides. Go into the component at the top, just before the component, paste them. Then go scroll down a little bit. These are the initialization, so pass it on and copy into our list users component. Okay, the last thing, we will copy some CSS styling also here and put it in the SCSS file. So far so good. It will still give you error because we need to import mat table module. Okay, so we need to import mat table, that's not there. So let's go ahead and get that API and import it from Angular material here. All right, copy that mat table, paste it here. So this is good. Now we should see our mat table loaded. You see here, so this is the custom mat table that comes out of the box. Now we are going to use this and modify based on our application. So let's do that work now. Go to HTML. So here you have the data that you're displaying, right? So first let's fix the data and see what we have. So here, if you notice the API that we are using, which is JSON placeholder.cypress.io here, and this is the one that we are using, which is the data that we get. So we are going to modify a little bit this, and here we are going to say ID. Okay, we are going to say ID, and we are going to say name, then we are going to say username, and then we are going to say email. Okay, now whatever names you give here, the same names you have to follow in your template. So let's go to our template and change them. So here in the, see here that mat definition, this is ID now, so make it ID. This is name, this is username, column definition is username, column definition is email. Okay, so let's change it here also, email, username. It's very simple, straightforward, follow along. Some people think it's tough, it's not. Alright, so now that we changed the column name, let's fix the data. So we want the data in this array format, right? This is what we'll be getting. So now what we are going to do, change the source, right? So we are going to say data source. Data source is periodic element, that's the name of this. So here I'm going to change that. So here I'm going to change ID, and so we'll need to delete this data. So stay with me. It looks complex, it is not, it is very simple. Just stay with me on this. So I'm going to redo this whole data set now, and I'll make this small ID just to keep consistency, and here also I'll make it small ID, and then go back to component. And now, so first I'm going to fix this and say username, I want this to be string. Then I have, I think name, email, right? ID, name, username, email. Now I'm going to give this data here. I'm going to say name. This will be username. This will be email. Okay, so this is a string, so it needs to be string here, data, right? So let's give it here arc and arc at testing.com. Okay, so now looks good. Now the data is also aligned along with our code. So let's see if so. Now we still don't see the data and maybe some issues. Let's see what errors. Okay, so there is some error. So username which is declared. Okay, expected string username, this is correct. Now let's go ahead and see in the template what we have. Element position, element name. Okay, so there is no position, there is ID, name, there is no weight, it's username, and there is no symbol, it is email. Okay, now let's see. Okay, so we see that the data is coming correctly for one record. Now similarly, time to switch and make this data dynamic, right? So why don't we just call it user interface, right, instead of periodic table, since we changed everything. So now we are saying user. So now list users, this is the array that we are getting, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it list users array of type user, right? And here I'm going to map it, right? This data that I get, I'm going to assign it and make it user type. See here, if you mouse over, has no initializer, so I'm going to say it is of type empty. Initially it will be empty, and now you see here it says user is missing from following type. Okay, so what we have to do, go to user service in list users, and here this is the user that we have, and I'm going to export and create a new interface here. Alright, so you can also say import user from list users component. So now we have user defined, it will return the type of user. Okay, so it's an observable, it is returning of type user, which is what we defined in our here in our list component. If you see export type, export interface user, right? So now again, let's, if you go back, it says user is missing from the following type of user. Okay, so then what we are going to do, we are going to map this data. Okay, so what data you get, so that's the first thing that we'll need to convert, or I can just add it in the service. Okay, and here I'm going to say list users return dot pipe, and in this I'm going to write map, and I'm going to say data that you get is new user, right? Or I can just send the data back. Since these are not our API, so that's where we are having little issue in terms of creating that, but never mind. I'm going to make it an array and make it an array here, and then go to list users, and now it should be fine. Okay, so now we are getting the list users type. Let's see if there are any errors. All good, compiled successfully, our code is good. Let's see in our table. Okay, so we are still getting that data because we have not changed the source. Okay, so I'm going to comment of this and data source, right? So we are going to say this dot ng on init, this dot data source. I'm going to define data source is equal to element data, which I can keep it empty for now. See here, so here what I've done, it's just empty, which is user, right? Or I can also call it, since our data source is what we are mapping here. If you see here, we are saying data source. Instead we can also provide list users, that's also fine, whichever. Either you give data source or list users. The type has to be user array, that's all it requires. Okay, now let's put this here back to list users, which is of type user array. Now see, all our users are coming from API, and all the data is now dynamic. right? So if you see, notice these two data is same, right? Erwin and all that data is now in tabular format. I'm going to clean up that code. We don't need that anymore because since we got the table structure, let's remove that line and move this to the top here. So see, displaying 10 users, and we have all the users done. So I am going to give this scope little bit, and I'm going to wrap it around a card maybe, right? And so we are going to use mat card here, mat title, say displaying users, and mat content. In this mat content, I'm going to cut this entire table and paste it inside it. Let's see, it says error. Okay, so we are going to go and get the documentation for card quickly and make sure that everything is correct. So see, it's very easy. Mat card title. Okay, that's the problem. Okay, mat card title. When you use different frameworks, it's pretty easy to get confused like this. So make sure that you don't end up confused like me. I hope this is making sense to you and I'm not going too fast. I hope it's clear. Now you see it's inside a mat card. Beautiful, looks good. Or I don't want to have this inside the mat card, or maybe you just want to display the table, or yeah, again, this is up to customization, so I'm not going to spend too much time in customization because I know you guys are already experts now in doing it. Let me know if you are or if you're not. I'll wait for your comments. So let me clean up a little bit. So now you see I put a card and I have this. I can give minimum height for this entire container, so that way it will be much better. So main content, I'm going to give main content, I'm going to say minimum height should be say 700 pixel for now, right? So now you see it's much better in scrolling. You can see the content much better and clear, right? It will make even sense if you don't want to display the white background, right? That would also look good. Again, I leave it up to you. You can put a div instead of mat card, and this, let's say, I'm just removing the mat card because I don't want like the white background for the table, because the table already has white background, see. So now it should be much better, right? See the gray color on top of the thing. Now I can say table has to be, the table should be margin from right should be say 20 pixel, so there is little gap that would come. Or I can say padding, or I would say width to be 95% and then padding right. So now see it looks much even cleaner and better, right? Make it 97, right? So this is beautiful. Now a table looks much better, much cleaner. And again, you can give the options in terms of action, right? So you can add one more column here and say actions, right? And go here and again add a column and say actions column. This is email. So see now what we started as a template which we took from the Angular material table, but now we are customizing it and making it our own, and that's the beauty of it, right? So you have it here. You can give edit, delete, or you can say view, right? So you can give different options like view, edit, and delete. And have we closed everything? mat cell, let element view, yes, I think, but table is not coming because data is not there. Let's see why, or just copy this for now and say actions. Let's see, let's trigger this first. Let's see if there is any. Okay, that's because here we have a duplicate actions, and here, so see, view, edit and delete, right? So you can also make it a links and pass the ID that we had done it in earlier part. I'm not going to do that now, I'll do it later here, or let's do it in one flow if we are doing it. View, edit and delete. Okay, so instead of href, now you see it's much better, much cleaner. Now we have our table which is getting the data from HTTP APIs. We have the view, edit and delete, right? Now let's make this dynamic so it's much cleaner. Let's clean the code while we are at it. So I'm not using h, instead I'm going to use router link, and then I'm going to pass, say, edit, and here it would be the elements ID, right? So let's see this. Now if you see, it is edit/1, it's not edit, it should be view for view. Now same thing, you copy it here and paste it throughout the other links. So instead of href, now this will be edit, and here it will be delete. If you like this tutorial, please do hit that like button. Please do drop in your love by saying comments. So now you see, click on it, it goes to view. Okay, because it's saying user/list. Okay, so we are going to change that and we are going to make it explicit. So we are going to say, you can either do this, right, call it and pass the value here. So here it will be users, right? Now here you are saying user/view. Let's see what is the value. List users view, list/view/1. One second. Oh, you don't need that list, right? So we are going to say, and it would be one level up. Now this will be users. So now see, it's working fine. So in the other one, we are going to give it one level up. Again, this routing is tricky because it can be done in different ways. Either you can provide relative route, or I'm giving it in the router link, so that's up to you, but anything works, whichever way you prefer. Now click on view, go back, click on edit, it brings the data, click on delete, it will take you to delete works and will give you this message, right? So far so good. So we got the pagination and those things pending, sorting. We'll do that as we move forward in the series, but today's task was to convert this into a data table with actions, and now you see that we have a data table. So the next task that we wanted to do today was, one was validation, the other was, I think, let's check. Okay, these are the files, and here we are. Let's open the editor, the one we have, 3. So we said we'll do validations, we did it, right? We did this one, so done. We did data table, that's done. All right, so typecasting is another thing. So it's part of something like what we have already done as part of list. If you see here in the Angular project, if you see list users component, we created a model, right? We created an interface, right? So what we are saying here is that this is a data type now. User is a data type, and we are saying that this data type will have all these 4 things, right? That way it will become strict data typing. And if you notice here, we are saying that the data that is returned is also strictly of type user, right? So this is something that I'll cover again in detail when in the Angular 10 series, but know that we can create our own data types based on what format we want, right? So this can have multiple fields like address, you can have anything, like you can have a sorted one, you can have an object, right? And you can have complex structure. So most enterprise applications will have complex structure. I'll cover this later in detail, but understand what we have done here is created a new data type, and we are saying we are expecting the data to be, that's why in list users also we are saying this API will return an array of type user, right? So this is called typecasting or strict data typecasting, because now if you pass anything that is not user will give you error. Similarly, if you pass any data or try to map anything to an variable which is not of type this particular, it will give you error. Let me show you that. So let's say you have some other let's say students, right? So see, it will tell you that property does not exist, right? Or let's say this will work because here it's any. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to say string. So now see, it will give you error that user is not assignable to string because there is strict data typecasting. That means it will only take what kind of value? It will, this is returning user data array. This is string. That's why there is this error. So you need to have the same data type that you want to capture in the particular, say, whatever data you're getting, you need to make sure that the data typecasting is correct, right? So that is other topic that I wanted to touch base. I will cover that again in detail, I promise, and I will make you guys expert in typecasting also. So there are two small things that I want to cover. Lazy loading, right? So if you see our application right now, it's open access, right? That means we just have users, and anybody, whenever we launch our application, users will load, because if you open app module, you will see the users module here, right? So what happens over a period of time when you are working with a lot of different features, functionality, modules, you will see that you will have so many modules, but you should not load them all in one go. A classic example that I tell everyone is, if you are working, let's say if you are working in a payments, right? Let's say you're working with payment, or let's say comments or photos gallery, right? Photos. Now who can access these photos? Users who are authenticated, right? That means logged in users. Only logged in users can access photos, right? Let's say. So whenever, if user is not logged in, we should not even load this module, right? Because it will unnecessarily waste your performance. Application will slow down because of loading. Also, you are exposing this module unnecessary. So that means this is called lazy loading. That means whenever user navigates to this particular screen or route, then only load that particular child component. Let's see how to do that. I have covered that in detail in the Angular 9 and 10 series, the lazy loading module. I will request you please check it out, because nothing that would really make you a master also. Alrighty, so now I'm going to show you here. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a new lazy loading module. And how do we do that? So I've just put that here in the angular.io. This is the command. Now this is a name of the module that you want to create, but you can change it. Copy this, go back, paste it here, and paste it. And then let's change it. Instead of customers, let's say I want to say roles, right? And roles can be accessed only when you go to that route. Okay, so now what we are saying, ng generate module name is roles, and we are saying it's a hyphen hyphen route roles module app module. That means now we are making it a lazy loading module. Let's see how. Now notice here that roles will be created. Here roles is created in the app routing. That is very important. Go here and see that this line is added, and this line says whenever user goes to this particular path, that is roles, then only load that particular module. Very critical, because you should know that it will affect your performance in your application real time. There will be hundreds of modules. You cannot load them all in one go. That's why we need to have lazy loading strategy. Here we are saying whenever user goes to roles, then only load that particular module. Let me show you that now. Let's do ng serve. I hope these tutorials are helpful to you. I'm putting in a lot of effort in explaining things as simple as possible to help you guys. Please do let me know in the comment section. Please do subscribe. I see that a lot of people watch videos but they don't subscribe, so please do that. All right, let's give it a minute to compile. Also, if you like my tutorials, please do consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/arc-tutorials. Thank you in advance. Alright, so our application is compiled. So let's get started now and go and check our application. Alrighty, so we are here, nothing crazy. Let's go check the network tab. Right, now I'm going to reload, and now you'll see here something interesting, that we do not see the roles loaded. Correct? That is because roles will only get added when we request for it. Whenever we go to that particular route, then only the roles will be module will be loaded. Okay, let me show you that now. So when you go to now roles here and see the network, you see here that it got roles module. See here. So that is because this module, when requested, then only it will be loaded in your browser, or it will not be. So that makes it really fast. And whenever you work in any real-time application, you will work with lazy loading because you want modules to be protected. You want modules to be loaded only when user goes to that particular route and not before. Right? Like I said, I've covered this in detail in Angular 10 and in Angular 9 series. So make sure that you go through it because this is an extremely critical and important topic. Here I'm just touching the tip of the ice because I'm not going into detail here because this is a working session, but as a tutorial I've covered this in detail, so make sure you check it out. Alright, so that is lazy loading module, which means when requested then only this module will load. That is in simple terms. You can add any number of lazy loading modules in your application, no restriction. Alright, so that is about lazy loading. One last thing we'll do today before I leave you guys today. I think it's too much information in one go, but I'm sure you're enjoying and learning from it. So let's go to list module, list users. Now I see that these are some are uppercase, right? The first alphabet is uppercase for email. So how do you use pipe, right? So pipe can be used to transform the data. You can have uppercase, lowercase, date, json, and much more different types of pipes. I'm going to demo you and show you how you can use some of those pipes. Okay, so I'm going to show you uppercase, lowercase in this context. So let's get started. Go to the template file, and in the template file, let's say this email, right? So here I'm saying let's show the email in uppercase. So put pipe operator and say uppercase. So now this will put the email address in uppercase. See here, all are uppercase. But if you want something to be lowercase, all lowercase, just make it lowercase. So now all will be lowercase, right? So that way you can transform the data using pipes. We have a lot of different approaches that we can do with custom pipes also. I will cover that also in the coming tutorials, but I think this is what I'll cover today. These are some of the key and critical topics that they are asked in interviews with examples. I hope these will help you crack your interviews as well as help you in your work. Thank you so much for joining today. I think we are making quite a good progress in learning Angular and hands-on labs, right? So no theory, more code. I hope it's really helpful to you. Do let me know how you like these tutorials. If you like the work, And if you can, please do consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/arctutorials. Thank you so much. Please do subscribe. Please do share. Also, please do check out the mean stack application that I'm building from scratch, and we are going to make quite a good progress this month on it. So stay tuned for that. Also, please do subscribe to my channel and keep sharing your love and feedback to me. Thank you again. See you in the next episode.